Hey guys, thanks for the call. First question is for Dana and Lorenzo. You guys are basically now the NFL, or have been the NFL of MMA, but with this deal, of course, it's huge. What are your thoughts on a fighters union as far as with everything going on with the NFL and what we've seen in Wisconsin in the past couple of weeks?
Yeah, I think that's up to the fighters. I mean, if the fighters got together and wanted to do a fighters union, the problem with that in the fight business is this really isn't a team sport. I don't think you're going to see some of the guys who are making the big money wanting to kick some of their money down to these guys that might never make it or might never be. But that isn't up to us. That's up to them.
And you guys have said for a long time that this, every contract is going to be honored. But for Dana, with the deals as they expire, even if someone's re-signing with Strikeforce, will you look at those deals as far as exclusivity? Because we know a lot of Strikeforce deals allow their guys to fight in other organizations, or like Alistair Overeem can fight in K1. Will you guys look at those contracts going forward?
Yeah, well, again, like I said before a million times on this call, business as usual. Scott's going to manage those relationships, work those deals, work the contracts. That's Scott Coker deal.
I can answer to that. I can answer to that as well. I mean, Alistair Overeem's deal and a lot of these other fighter deals, even though they are allowed to fight in Japan, we always had booking priority and had to have approval. So it wasn't just a free reign of a contract. So that won't change. I mean, with I don't know if there's going to be a K1, but with Alistair and the other fighters in the past, they've always had to have approval regardless.
Okay. And a question for Scott. The situation with Fedor Emelianenko, obviously Dana has said, obviously all contracts are going to be honored, but can you kind of give us either an update or just kind of clarification on how Fedor's contract works? Because M1 has said his contract's with Showtime, and I just want to get some clarification on what his deal is.
Well, you know what? Here's the thing. The one thing I cannot get into is, confidentiality provisions in different contracts that we're tied to. So, Fedor fights for Strikeforce, and Fedor fights on Showtime. So there is a relationship, but getting into the details of the contract, I just can't do that.
We'll take our next question from Dan Stoop with MMAJunkie.com.
Hey, for either Dana or Lorenzo, why was this the right deal right now? We had heard another group or two may have been talking to Strikeforce about a purchase. Was this partly a defensive move?
I don't know anything about.
No, I mean, as we were doing this deal, I hadn't heard that they were talking to anybody else, so that was kind of news to me when people were talking about it on the phone today. But no, it wasn't prompted by that in any way.
When did your guys' first serious discussions start taking place?
When was that?
I want to say January?
December. Sometime in the mid part of December, I think. And obviously we kind of went through the holidays and lost some time there and stayed in touch and ended up getting the deal done last Friday.
Okay. I guess even before then, had you guys ever talked, internally, seriously about purchasing Strikeforce, or I guess did the right situation just pop up?
No, it wasn't really a big subject over here at the UFC. As Dana said many times, these guys have built a great brand, and it's a good-looking product on TV. And as we started thinking about it a little bit more, we just thought that it made sense to have Strikeforce in the family here. And one of the things that Scott alluded to as well is that we have a tremendous amount of resources here. We have offices here in Vegas, Toronto, London, Beijing, and we've got distribution in nearly 150 countries and territories. And, now the ability for Scott to be able to leverage all those resources, whether it be, PR, new media, marketing, everything that we do here, we think will help kind of accelerate the growth that Strikeforce was already on.
We'll take our next question from Chris Ducetti with Toronto Sun.
Hey guys, I know you both mentioned that there are thousands, literally, of other MMA organizations out there, but how many of those are actually successful? Do you guys know? I mean, we hear about a lot of them that aren't making money, right?
Yeah, that's one of the things about getting into this business. That's the risk of being in this business. There's no listen. I love the fact that we make it look easy. This is a very, very difficult business to be involved in. And like I said, we were talking earlier, and Lorenzo said, there's no barrier to entry. All you got to do is get some capital, Get ready.
Can we expect to see more moves like this purchase of Strikeforce when you see other successful companies out there, especially I guess when if you're trying to get a foothold in another country, could that be a way to go to bolster your roster, quickly pick up 100 fighters from buying one organization in another country, another market like that?
I don't know. We got big plans on I've been saying it for 10 years. Believe that this is going to be the biggest sport in the world. We believe that this sport works everywhere, that people all over the world, no matter what color you are, what language you speak, or what country you come from, everybody likes fighting, and everybody gets it. And at mixed martial arts, it's exciting. People love it, and we're going to bring it into all these different countries, and we need more fighters. So who knows? I honestly can't answer that question on what we could do or won't do. What we are going to do is we're going to continue to grow this sport and bring it everywhere, all over the world.
Sorry, does it make sense though, Dana, that that's a fast way to get a foothold into another country? Maybe if you're not familiar with the country, you can find I guess a successful organization there, buy it, and there you go.
I don't know. We've done a pretty good job of figuring out all these different countries and finding our way through, and whether it's television deals. I mean, we're in a 500 million homes on television worldwide. This thing is distributed in 20-something different languages. So we're doing a pretty good job of finding our way around all these different countries, and so we're going to continue to do.
We'll go next to Dave Metzler with Yahoo Sports.
This is kind of for Lorenzo and Dana. And one of the things I think that you guys have done really well, among many obviously, is that the championship situation, when you compare this to boxing, I mean, in boxing, who even knows who the champions are of each organization? In UFC, any fan off the top of his head knows. Do you worry about? I mean, if I say who's the lightweight champion, it's Frankie Edgar. Now all of a sudden there's two guys in this weight class. There's two guys in every weight class. How do you kind of reconcile the idea of having world champions but not having it be like boxing where the fans don't know who the champions are and the championships themselves really don't mean a whole hell of a lot?
I think that's been the question. That hasn't changed from Saturday to today. I mean, those guys were champions on Saturday. They are today. And, we said at the beginning of this call, will these guys never face each other? No. Our job is to make sure the fans get the fights that they want to see. It's just a matter of when. We'll see what happens.
Okay, cool. All right, thanks.
Yep. We'll take one more question.
We'll go next to Neil Davidson with the Canadian Press.
Yes, thank you. Dana and Lorenzo, you talked about the growing demand and the need for fighters. I understand that Strikeforce gives you a different brand, more fighters, a new TV contract, and some more options. But where do you see the particular areas for growth? I mean, you've said sometimes in the past that you think that the pay-per-view market maybe you're doing as much as you can in that. Do you see it live? Do you see more televised? Do you see putting shows on the internet? What avenues are you going to use all these fighters, do you think?
Well, it's really all the above what you just talked about. I mean, there's certainly, we've been building out our new media capabilities with original programming on the internet, like Ultimate Insider, things like that. We're now live streaming prelims on Facebook. I think you could see live content, obviously streaming. You could see you're going to see live content on regular television. And really, as I mentioned before, one of the things that we're trying to figure out how to accomplish is that we don't just go run into a country like Australia, do an event and pack up and leave. We want to at least have a presence, in those markets. And yeah, we'll bring big events down maybe once, twice a year, but we think that there's a fan base down there that certainly can handle going to 8 to 10 events to watch, some of the rising young stars there and give those kids the ability to perform and make their way up and give them exposure. And at some point, maybe they fight, for a title. So it's about developing talent. It's about getting more content to the fans, and whether we decide to, stream it over the internet, which we certainly could, or deliver it to a television company is just going to be based on the deal itself.
So the point is, what he's saying is, all the fights and things that we do here that the United States and Canada get, we feel we could do in all these different markets with local talent. Look, for instance, Ultimate Fight Nights, how I always used to talk about USA's Tuesdays in all these different countries, yet now, today we have the ability, whether it's on Facebook or through the internet or however else that the thing is done, to stream this to other fans all over the world that want to see it. There's a ton of demand for this, and we're trying to figure it all out.
So if I can just follow up briefly, you mentioned Australia, which, like Canada, is one of your biggest markets outside the U.S. I mean, in Canada, how many shows would you like to be able to put on a year? You're doing 2 right now. Do you see you could do 8 to 10 in various forms with UFC, Strikeforce?
Yeah, I think that's a reasonable number. I mean, even if you look at boxing. I mean, you know, you have all the events that happen here in North America, but it's vibrant in Europe. I mean, you look at Germany, all the events that happen there. In the UK, all the events that happen there. Even down in Australia. I mean, that truly is what we're talking about, where there is demand for more shows. And, you know, right now we're essentially, the UFC and Strikeforce has been holding, you know, the vast majority of their events here in North America. And, yeah, once in a while, maybe 4 to 5 times a year, we go somewhere around the globe. But once again, we don't feel like we have what I'll call kind of a year-round presence there. It's too much of a kind of a special event situation. And what we want to do is we literally want to build a real business in all these markets. And to do that, we need more resources. We need more fighters like the talent that Scott has with Strikeforce. It really gives us more opportunities to be able to leverage the infrastructure we have around the world and you know, deliver great content so the people who want to watch fights can watch fights.
That concludes the question and answer session today. Thank you for your participation.